Hi friends, it's Cassie. Welcome back for another Pearblossom Press video. Today we're going to be working with the Easy Light, and here's what they look like if you are unfamiliar. I love these Easy Lights. This is a pack of 5, super simple to put together. And then we're also going to be using the Pearblossom Press stamp set. It's got all these really cute things for your interactives, and it also has some dies to go along with it. I thought I would pair my Easy Light up with the Colorize Lovestruck by Sizzix and Holtz, and I want to make a Valentine's card. And I know there really aren't any holes in there to make like it light up, but we're going to make that work. I also have some warm Kraft stock. We have our small talk from Holtz Idea-ology. And then I'm bringing in, believe it or not, some Christmas 2024 paper. Yeah, it's mostly Christmas, but some of those papers in there are absolutely perfect for non-Christmas. So here's one I found. I have no idea what it says, but even the back I think would work really well for a Valentine. So that's the paper we're going to use. But let's go ahead and pull out these dies. I haven't used these that much before, but what I really love about these Holtz dies is that each one of them has on it, like this is the large, it'll tell you even what color and the number of the die because these are so layered. That is super helpful. So I just kind of followed the packaging a little bit. I pulled out this warm Kraft stock, which is mostly reds and some oranges and some pinks and even some Kraft. But what's neat about these card stocks is that if you tear them or whatever, the Kraft really shows through. So I've gone ahead and die cut out all the pieces that I needed for the big heart and also the small heart. We don't end up using the small heart, so I'll save that for another card, but I'm kind of layering those up, just seeing how they go together. And they're super simple to piece together. Each of the dies gives a little bit of an embossed part so that you know where all your layers add up or where they're supposed to go. I die cut out the arrow with some black and then Kraft and also some gold cardstock that I have, and so we're just going to start piecing everything together here and gluing those, but I'm just kind of playing around seeing how those look. We'll bring in some Weeping Willow Simon Hurley Create ink along with a blending brush, and I'm gonna just blend on some of that ink to some of those different areas just to add a little bit of dimension to it, kind of weather them a little bit. And I do it to all the pieces, but this is basically how I do it, just kind of blending it on there. And I'm going to do it to the small and the large, and I do it, like I said, to each of the pieces of those hearts. So it's pretty simple. We can clean up our mess and we can start adhering everything together. So I'm going to use liquid glue. I tend to use liquid glue most of the time simply because it gives you a little bit of wiggle room, and I like that. So we'll attach the pieces for our arrow. And then the way they layer up is pretty neat, but the other thing is that when you layer up cardstock, it's obviously going to be fairly thick. So parts of these, like the arrow and the hearts themselves, because I did that out of Kraft stock and not just like a paper, like a lightweight paper, they're going to be pretty thick, which is fine. It'll go through the mail just fine, but just keep that in mind. All right, so our arrow is ready to go. That's how that looks. Looks good. And then we can start piecing together our hearts. So off camera, I glued all of my heart pieces together, and then I do like that there's this little die that adds the light reflective look to it. I did put this one in the wrong area, but again, this is why I use liquid glue, so I can peel that off and put it in the right area. And you just follow the packaging, just look at that. And again, these die cuts also have little areas where they're embossed, and so you kind of have a better idea of where those go. And so for the last 2 parts, that's right here on this heart, and so I'll just put the big piece down, and then I am going to bring in a pickup stick to get that last little part of the heart. But I like those little additions, just, you know, adds that reflective bit. It's really cool. And then I'll do the same thing to the little heart. And yeah, it's 4 pieces put together and then all of your little reflective pieces, and there they are. So at this point, I thought I was going to be using both of them. So I do cut my arrow down. I'm just trimming it. So that part would go here. And then I trim off the middle section, and then that would go there. But then as I look at my paper, and I trim this down to be 4 inches by 5 1/4, so a little bit smaller than an A2 size card. I do have some Kraft cardstock that does measure 4¼ by 5½ inches. I'm looking at this realizing there's no way that both of those hearts are going to fit on there the way I wanted to do them, kind of like the packaging had it. So I'm just going to use the big one. And so I'm bringing out one of the easy lights. You just break those apart, super simple to do. And then you pull off your battery that you need. And then just make sure that your plus side is up and you put that inside and then press your button and everything should be good to go. Love it. So yeah, I'm kind of playing around with where the lights are going to go. And even though this heart isn't something that's got like little pinholes or wherever you think you might be able to put it, I'm going to end up putting those around. But before I do that, I use a little circle die just to cut the circle out of the center of my paper, because this is my mechanism's going to go on the Kraft cardstock and come up through the hole, and then the heart will cover the hole. Where I've decided to put my mechanism is right here on the Kraft cardstock, keeping in mind that there is going to be a border because I cut my patterned paper down. So I do need to make sure that I'm leaving some space on that Kraft cardstock so it isn't going to show. And I'm doing the same thing with my world's best foam tape, which is the world's best foam tape, hands down. And so I'm just, again, making sure that I leave a Kraft border, but I'm trimming these down and putting that on my background. And then I'll put 2 more pieces just to make sure that they don't collapse in the center. And then I'm going to rough up my pattern paper a little bit. You could do this with a pair of scissors. This is a very old tool I have from probably back in early 2000s. Love it when you use those tools, right, that you've had for eons, and then you can pull those out from time to time. But this is just kind of roughing up those edges. I wanted this to have a little bit more of a distressed look. And then I'm going to take this paper and put it direct to the ink pad, or bring the ink pad directly to it, and it'll just kind of distress the edges a little bit, make it look a little older than what it is, and I think that looks pretty good. So I'm going to take my lights, and we're going to use a little bit of washi tape just to hold that in the center, and then I'll peel off the release paper all around. Then I can take my pattern paper and put that down, making sure the lights go through the center. Just kind of lining that up. If I don't get it down perfectly, the world's best foam tape allows you to pick your paper up for about 30 minutes, if you need to move it, and you won't tear it. All right, so now I'm kind of playing around with where I'm going to put the heart and where I want those lights to be. I'm just going to use a little pencil to mark a tiny dot where I want the lights to be on my pattern paper. And then I'm going to take some more of that washi tape, and I'll tape each of those lights down right over where I've put my pencil line. And I just want to make sure that the lights are pointing up, and I'll just put a tiny piece of that washi tape behind, just making sure the washi tape isn't going to show when I put the heart down. And it looks a little messy back there right now, but that's okay. No one's going to see that. So once again, a little bit of washi tape, and then we can put that down over our dot. And same thing with this one. Then I'm going to wind up the actual wires, what's left back there, and we'll just kind of make sure that they kind of stay put. And I'll use a little bit of washi tape to make sure that they stay where I need them to stay. Excuse me. And then we'll put our heart over the top and make sure everything's good to go. And it is. So you'll be able to see those lights just sort of poking out. If you're not looking for it, you're not going to see it. But when you press the light, there's a little bit of light going around our heart. I love it. All right, so now I need to put down the tail of our arrow. So I'll put that down first. Then I'll put some liquid glue around the heart, only sticking to the edges because it doesn't need to go over the circle in the middle. And I don't want it to go over the top of the lights. But you can see how neat that looks. And then here's the rest of the arrow tip. And this is where that thick cardstock comes into play. So because it's 4 thick, I'm going to need to make sure that this arrow kind of stays up. So I'm just going to take some of that cardstock and we're going to cut 4 pieces of it. And then we'll glue those on top of each other behind the arrow just to make sure that it's not dipping down, if that makes any sense. So it's going to be able to stay flush with the heart. So we'll just put 4 little pieces back there. They don't even line up perfectly, but it's okay. Or if you have some foam tape that is thin, you could probably use that too, but I figured this was just simpler and I had plenty of scrap cardstock sitting around, so easy enough. Then I could put some glue behind the arrow itself and the part where I put the cardstock. So that looks pretty good. I love it. So everything's good to go there. Now I need to bring in my sentiment. So I really enjoy these small talk ones because there's a lot of great sentiments in there. Great for cards. Even great for like if you wanted to make some sort of inspirational art, whatever you want to do. I really liked this one though. Darling, you are a work of art. And I do put one on the inside of the card as well. And that's just a card base that measured 5.5 inches by 8.5 inches, scored at 4 1/4. So it's a top folding A2 size card. And then I put one on the inside. You're all I hope to find. I forget what the rest of it says, but yeah, it's really sweet. This is a nice little Valentine's Day card that I will give to my Valentine. Glue gets a little bit stuck sometimes, but then we can just glue the rest of that down to our panel. And I have to do my Pearblossom press stamp at this point, so I'm just going to ink that up with some VersaFine Claire Nocturne ink. Stamp that on the back. It says handmade for you, and then I'll put my own stamp back there underneath it, so I make sure I have plenty of room for that. So it's got my name on it. And then I have the press here from the stamp set. I'm just going to ink that up, stamp it onto some white cardstock, and then I'll just trim that down by hand. If you don't trust yourself to do that, use your paper trimmer. And then I'll just put a little bit of liquid glue behind it. And then I can stick that right over where the button is for our mechanism. I love it. I love how this turned out. So here is a beautiful light up Valentine's Day card. I hope you like how this turned out. I sure do. If you like this video, be sure to hit that like button. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. And be sure to check out all that Pearblossom Press has going on over on their blog, Facebook page, and Instagram for more crafty inspiration. Thanks for stopping by, and we will see you soon.